Do you like horror stories?
I never told anyone what I saw that summer. Not really, not in full. But sometimes late at night, when I close my eyes, I can still smell the damp earth of the forest floor, hear the distant rumble of approaching thunder, and see the dull, glassy eyes of a dead boy staring at nothing. It was 1994 and I was 11 years old. My parents had sent me to spend the summer with my grandparents in their tiny village, nestled between thick forests and winding dirt roads. I didn't mind. The air was fresh, the days stretched endlessly, and I had my friends, other children whose laughter echoed through the trees as we ran barefoot over sun-warmed grass. One afternoon, as the sun hung heavy and golden in the sky, we played hide-and-seek near the edge of the woods. The air hummed with cicadas, and the world smelled of pine and wildflowers. I had just counted to 50 and was about to go looking when I felt something. A presence. Turning my head, I saw it. A doe stood not 10 feet away, staring at me with impossibly deep, dark eyes. There was something strange about her, something unnatural in the way she stood so still, so unafraid. Then, as if beckoning me, she turned and walked into the trees. I don't know why I followed her, curiosity maybe, or something deeper, some ancient whisper in my bones. The game forgotten, I stepped off the path and into the waiting shadows of the woods. The doe moved slowly, pausing now and then to look back at me, ensuring I was still behind her. The deeper we went, the darker it became. The laughter of my friends faded. The trees grew taller, denser, swallowing me whole. Then I realized I was lost. Panic licked at my chest. I turned in a slow circle, my breath quickening. The trees all looked the same. The path had vanished. I was alone. And then the rain began. It started as a whisper, a drizzle that pattered against the leaves. But soon it became a roar, drenching me in seconds, making my clothes cling to my skin. My breath came in ragged gasps as I stumbled forward, desperate to find my way back. That's when I saw it. A cave. Its gaping mouth loomed ahead, black as the void, a refuge from the rain. I stepped inside, my shoes slipping on the wet stone, my hands brushing against the cold, damp walls. The air smelled of moss, of earth, and of something else. Something metallic. Then I saw the blood. It pooled on the ground in dark, glistening puddles, smeared across the cave floor like frantic brushstrokes. My stomach lurched, my mind screaming at me to run, to turn back, to forget. But then I saw him. A boy lay crumpled just beyond the bloodstains, his small body limp, his face pale beneath the bruises that marred his skin. His eyes, open and unseeing, stared at the ceiling. His mouth was slightly parted, as if he had tried to speak one last word before death took him. I knew him, Tom, the quiet boy from the end of the village, the one who never played with us, who always watched from a distance with sad eyes. Tom who barely spoke, who always flinched when someone raised their voice. I opened my mouth to scream, and then my foot slipped. Pain exploded in my skull as I crashed onto the rocks. The world tilted, spun, darkened. The last thing I saw before the blackness took me was the lifeless body of Tom, the rain outside turning to a torrential downpour. I woke to the sound of voices, to the blinding glare of flashlights. A man in uniform was crouched over me, shaking me gently. "Laura," he said, his voice urgent. "Can you hear me?" I blinked up at him, my mind sluggish, my thoughts a tangled mess. Then it came back all at once. The blood, the body, the cave. "Tom," I gasped, sitting up too fast, my head throbbing. "He's here, he's—" But when I looked, the cave was empty. No blood, no body, nothing but damp rock and silence. I must have dreamt it, I told myself. A nightmare conjured by fear and injury. That was the only explanation. The police, my grandparents, the villagers, they had all searched. They had found nothing. But that night I dreamed again. In my dream, Tom stood before me, his bruises gone, his face soft with something that might have been relief. "He killed me," he whispered. "My stepfather. He didn't want me anymore." I woke up gasping, my skin cold with sweat. The next day I asked about Tom, about where he had gone, but the villagers only exchanged uneasy glances. His family had left, they said, moved away the day before. No one knew where. But I knew. I went to the police and told them what I had seen, what I had dreamed. At first they didn't believe me, but then they started to dig. They found him, buried deep in the woods, in a shallow grave, just like in my dream. His stepfather was arrested soon after, a man with cruel eyes and whiskey on his breath, a man who had bet away his last coins and decided that a hungry child was one burden too many. Tom had tried to run. He hadn't made it. I should have felt relief, knowing that justice had been done. But that night I dreamed one last time. In my dream there was no cave, no blood, no horror. Only sunlight and laughter. A meadow filled with wildflowers. A river clear and cool. And children, so many children, running, playing, free. Among them was Tom. He turned to me smiling, and for the first time his eyes weren't sad. Then he ran, disappearing into the golden light. And I woke, tears on my cheeks, the weight of summer finally lifting from my bones. I never saw Tom again. But sometimes when the wind whispers through the trees, when the forest stands still in the hush of twilight, I feel a presence watching. Not something menacing, something grateful. And somewhere in the depths of the woods, I know a doe is still waiting.